Let's talk exotics. I know I just flashed a warning, but I want to emphasize again that I will be talking about exotic handbags as well as the deliberate killing of animals today. You have been warned. Don't watch this on the big screen TV with your kids running around. I will be including, I don't know how much I'm going to include, but I will be including some pretty gruesome images and some clips. I'll see how I feel about it as I'm editing the video. Now, today's topic is not to sway you to buy or not to buy exotic skin handbags. We're just having a discussion, and the purpose of it is just for education and awareness. And yes, I am riling things up yet again with another controversial topic. These are just like random things that interest me, and then every now and then I kind of like to do these kind of videos because how many videos can you make of what fits in my bag or the new releases at Hermes can you actually consume, and for me to just talk about anyways. So hopefully you'll enjoy some of this out of the box handbag content, and at the end of the video, sound off in the comments section your thoughts, and please be respectful. So let's just get right into it. The most common exotic skins we see today are python, lizard, ostrich, alligator, and crocodile. The not so common ones today are fish, eel, and mink. I've seen a couple eel, not very often, but there's a French brand that I did purchase from that had eel. It's just kind of weird, and then fish is just like, why would you, hey, my handbag is made out of fish scales. Like, that doesn't really make sense to me. Now, back in the 1940s to 1960s, maybe give or take a decade or two, it seems like people back in the day, they had a weird obsession where if you can kill it, you can skin it, you can make it into a bag. Which is why you still see some Hermes or just other vintage brands in general on the market that's made of elephant skins, beluga whale. That's Hermes specifically, but I've also went down the rabbit hole and saw like hippo skin, lion skin, which is just insane. And also very horrifying. I would never ever buy one or own one or just have any aspirations to touch any of those kind of bags. Now, apparently the newfound technology in the 40s of making handbags and I guess guns for sporting allow the folks back in the day to just get, I don't know, creative. First of all, why would you even want to own an elephant skin bag? Like, you've seen elephants. Their skin and texture is just not, it's like sandpaper. It's just incredibly rough. And of course, thinking about like the baby elephants, and whales and just any like mammals in Africa is just like cry, right? Now that we've established that we are totally against a hard pass against those kind of specific exotics, which you obviously don't see at all because most of these animals are endangered. What I want to discuss today is the other aspect of the more common exotics today. Again, I'm not telling you to buy or don't buy exotics. This is a decision you have to make for yourself. I've gotten comments about exotics, which is 100% cruelty, which you can say that about cows and goats, but that's a whole different topic. However, when it comes to exotics, I don't think things are 100% black and white. So let me tell you why. How I even got started thinking about this topic is that I was looking at dachshunds, and very innocent, right? Because my friend loves dachshunds and she sends me a million reels on it. And of course, IG decides to feed me more content on dachshunds. We know dachshunds are originally bred to go hunting, which is why I then came across a couple of creators that utilizes their dogs to hunt. The one I was most fascinated by is Python Cowboy. This was quite an eye-opening experience through, I guess, Instagram to me. And unbeknownst to me, there is a complete crisis down south, especially in Florida. For those of you who are not from the United States, never been to the United States, Florida is a place where they're famous for their swamps and specifically the Everglades. And apparently it is taken over by two invasive species. The Burmese mountain dog, no, that would be super adorable. The Burmese python and the green iguana. So let's start with the Burmese pythons, which found their way to the Everglades, I think back in the 1980s by pet traders, and they're kind of crazy. There's a whole entire backstory on it, but they can actually lay up to 20 to 60 eggs on average, but it can get upwards of 100 eggs at a time. They can also grow up to 20 feet long and weigh over 200 pounds. So how do they end up in the wild? Irresponsible pet owners and, of course, breeders, kind of like puppy mills, where they throw them into the wild and come back, 6 months, a year, 2 years later, and they start collecting the babies to start selling them for a profit. That essentially is how the population grew out of control for the past 6 decades. These pythons are essentially eating up all of the small mammals that are out there in the Everglades or just Florida in general, like rabbits, squirrels, raccoons, birds, possums, otters, deers. The list is quite long. I think they said there were over 80 species or whatever. Even deer and bobcats, also alligators, pythons are eating alligators, which is kind of crazy. It has been documented that there are over 80 to 90% decrease in the population across the board, which is nuts. They're literally taking the entire ecosystem over there. This doesn't just affect animals, but it also affects humans because mosquitoes usually, and again, it's a swampy area, there's a lot of standing water mosquitoes, it's like a breeding ground for them. They usually breed and host on the smaller animals, but now they've been killed off by these pythons. They have found a new host, which is mice, and mice usually reproduce quite fast, and hence the amount of these hosts become available to these mosquitoes. There's more homes for them to kind of chill out in, right? So all of the citizens that live down south, they're literally being attacked by swarms of mosquitoes, and it's starting to travel up north. Obviously, at some point, they get cut off because of the more colder climates. Billions of dollars, or at least millions of dollars, are being invested by the government down there to contain this problem. Yes, I completely went down a rabbit hole. No pun intended. Second, iguanas. Same story as the pythons, but apparently even worse. You think they're herbivores? Guess again. They apparently will eat small baby mammals as well, I think tiny baby mice, but mostly they do eat plants, which also creates a pretty big issue for these small mammals because a lot of them do eat plants, grass, and whatever, right? They end up eating everything. These iguanas literally eat everything in sight so that the other mammals have nothing left to eat and they're basically starving to death. So it brings it all back to what I was talking about and why I was so fascinated with the python cowboy and what he does and his team. They go out to all of the Everglades and residential areas and etc. to kill all of these pythons and iguanas for a living. They are literally animal control except for pythons and iguanas, pretty much solely. It is wild what they do. They go on golf courses, then they would be paid to go play duck hunt, apparently. 20 to 100 at a time per session. And these iguanas, again, they're herbivores. You think they're harmless, but they're not. They're literally destroying cities. They like to burrow, hence, going underneath cement and concrete, and they're causing motor accidents. They are destroying water systems because they break pipes and everything, which again, it costs millions of dollars of damage. These dudes at Python Cowboys are one of the few that are actually trying to save the ecosystem by killing, which sounds very contradictory, but I guess it kind of makes sense after they explained it. All of the Bambis and Thumpers and the city, of course. Honestly, I had no idea this was such a huge problem. I did, have conversations with some of my clients who live down in Florida. I asked them about it, hey, is this actually a real problem? Or is it just the internet making things a bigger deal than it actually is? And they responded with, yeah, it's actually real. They've lived down there for decades and they used to see little bunnies run around and they don't really see them anymore. They say the infrastructure damage is real too. And if you want to learn more about this, because we want to bring it all back to talking about handbags and how is this relevant to you watching this video, I'll make sure to link all of their socials down in the description box. And there's actually a really good interview with Python Cowboy and Joe Rogan down below as well. I'll link. Whether or not you like Joe Rogan, it was a really good interview. Now that I have sufficiently scarred you with all of these gruesome clips and images, how does this all tie back to the handbag community? Now, before I jump into the second portion where I'll actually show you some bags, hit that subscribe button for me. If you are new here, drop a comment down below so I can say hi to you. I'm glad you found me. This is not how I usually want new viewers to find me, but hey, I want to have all kinds of different conversations. For those of you who are returning, you know what to do. I rely on you every single week to hit, comment, engage with me. I just like having conversations with all of you. And of course, like I said, I will link everything I'm talking about down below, including the articles I read, the clips I watch, and the handbags I'm going to talk about. With all of this new information, what are your thoughts? Would you buy python or lizard skin bags? All of those dead iguanas and python has to go somewhere, right? Just like we have cow and goat leather bags, they're pretty much byproducts of the meat industry. So you bet your ass someone's gonna come swooping in, scoop them up, and turn them into leather products. Fun fact, well, I don't know if it's a fun fact. You can't actually eat pythons. They are super high in mercury and parasite infested, so probably don't want to touch that and have anywhere close to your mouth. Iguanas. Couldn't really find much information about iguanas, but I don't know if there's that much meat to eat. Iguana sausage, kind of like alligator sausage, right? But anyways, basically this is the perfect opportunity to put these leathers to good use, right? Ha. Not quite. In theory, yes, but we live in the world of exploitation. But I'll come back to that in a second. P448, I don't know. You've seen this brand. I've seen this at my local Nordstrom Rack, where it's a luxury shoe company. I think they're Italian. They do make all kinds of weird, funky sneakers that usually end up going on sale. Not a big fan, but they're a good company. I think their sneakers are decent, but they're considered a luxury shoe company. And they had a whole entire campaign utilizing these python skins to drive more awareness to these issues and putting these skins to good use and making them eco-friendly. There's some merit to it, but I think that was just like, oh, okay. It's kind of a vicious cycle, really. Like, yes, you can drive more awareness, cool. But too much awareness, then demands goes up, and then supply to make these shoes and purses, it's not enough. So what happens? The increased attention obviously can lead to the exploitation of the actual Burmese snakes in their local regions to be snatched up and killed specifically for this leather goods industry, which turns my attention to Gucci. Gucci got sued last October by their own employee, a Gucci employee, for exposing how they were instructed and basically lied to tell their clients like, hey, we are ethically sourcing the snakes and alligator from Thailand, which basically, again, this is all alleged. This is something I read off of an article. I have no proof, but they were all coming from an actual farm in Thailand. They're not ethically sourced, allegedly. Now, we know that lawsuits can take forever and investigations needs to follow, and I'm sure there's some sort of different hands in that, and that could turn out to be not the exact truth, but we'll see. I don't exactly know. I couldn't find anything about what the follow-up was for that, but if I do find it, eventually, probably in like 6 months, 8 months, then I'll let you know. So let's wrap up this entire conversation. You really only have 4 options, in my opinion. 1, avoid exotics, period. Just like you want nothing to do with it. You won't have any of it. I don't want to take a chance where some of these, exotics are inhumanely processed and farmed specifically for handbags. Option number 2, you love the look of exotics and want to buy a leather good that is made from python or iguana or lizard or whatever. Buy from a mom and pop shop that actually has an affiliation with hunters and support a local business that turn these pests, so to speak, or they're ruining the ecosystem of pythons and lizard into leather goods. And the affiliation with Python Cowboy, I'll link down below. In my opinion, my problem with that is that their designs are usually super meh, and they're very rustic, and they're not refined in design or craftsmanship, unfortunately, for us, at least for the handbag community and the luxury loving people. Option number 3 is to buy from a big luxury company where they get a lot more scrutiny from the government as well as the public. You usually get really good quality in terms of how they process the leathers, and the designs are usually much more modern and refined. big luxury that still do exotics today: Hermes, Celine, Louis Vuitton, Gucci. Probably want to stay away from the Gucci one. Did you know that Coach actually has python and alligator as well? I was just like, what? So looking at some of this, yeah, I mean, would you pay $2,500 for snakeskin? And the Rouge bag for $8,000. There's a blue snakeskin for $4,300. Would you pay $10,000 for a Coach alligator bag? Be honest, would you? I wouldn't. See a Saint Laurent in lizard for $27.50. I think that's not a horrible price because usually there's a massive markup in lizard or python, which again, this is what I'm focusing on today because it is the most common. We also see a Loewe puzzle edge in python for $37.50. That's actually not an obscene price as opposed to like a $5,000 or $10,000 bag from Coach. At least it's Loewe. Loewe is like known for their leathers, so I wonder how this would be in real life when it comes to python. Savet also has their symmetry pochette, which I actually saw the blue one on their website. They call it ocean blue or something. That was beautiful, gorgeous. We've got a Valentino for $61.50. That's kind of hefty for a Valentino. And of course, can you expect anything less? Bulgari also has a metallic shoulder bag for $49.50. And Bulgari, you know, their whole theme is snake. It's kind of like, yeah, I expect it for them to have a snake python bag. Two more. Lanvin, they have their famous pencil bag in python for $6,600. Dang, that's a lot. And lastly, Givenchy also has their python. This actually is a really beautiful green for almost $4,000. One more piece of news to me that I did not know. Hermes apparently announced a few years ago that they were opening Australia's largest crocodile farm that hosts 50,000 reptiles. That is wild, and I am totally not on board with that. Let's not open a farm just specifically for reptiles. For those of my friends down in Australia, I'm sure you heard this news. What can you tell us? Do share. Option number 4, you can buy pre-loved exotic pieces. You're not going to increase the new demand for exotics from these big luxury brands, and you could save quite a pretty penny on these exotic pieces. You know, outside of Hermes, usually those hold pretty good value when it comes to Hermes, but generally it doesn't hold its value compared to retail prices. And you can see upwards of 50, 70, it's kind of all over the place, but around 50 to 70% off at least on retail prices. And here are some I found for you, including this Ralph Lauren one, Python handbag for like $550. That's a pretty good deal. Is it the most fashionable? This is probably my least favorite kind of color. More OG. When it comes to Python, I feel like they need to be doctored up a little, have a little bit more color. And then another kind of OG Python color, very like raw, for $610 with Gucci. This one's actually gorgeous from Celine. It's water snake, so obviously you are not contributing or helping the cause when it comes to those pythons down in Florida. This one's priced at $3,400, but I will say that is a beautiful color. And then I saw this one from Louis Vuitton. I don't know what this atrocity is, but it is both alligator and python. So apparently Louis Vuitton's just like, yes, let's take both exotic skins and put it together, and it's gonna be a super exotic bag for $5,000 on their real. Yeah, no, that's a hard pass. The Python Lady Dior actually looks really nice. I think Dior does know how to do exotics pretty well. If you want a Parenza Sculler for $195, I think this is probably the best bang for your buck if you want to test out exotic for $195. Oh wait, there's more. 20% off of $195. So really, it is $160. That's a fantastic deal. Ooh, look at this one for $14,000. This is kind of like the trifecta. It is Hermes, it is a mini Kelly, and it is in lizard for 14,000, let's just say round it up with taxes, $15,000. I don't know much about repairing, but looks like there's some wear on this, but if we can get this repaired, I mean, that is beautiful. I kind of want that. Now we've got a Celine clutch for $16.50, kind of pretty. I think this one is vintage. Now we know Chanel has eliminated the exotic skin bags back in like what, 2015, something around there. So this is technically a pretty special piece if you are a Chanel girly. $1,600. Not horrible. And here is another Dior. Instead of Python, this one is in Lizard for $4,500. This one, again, Dior actually knows how to take its original raw leather hide and turn it into something beautiful and not completely altering the look of it and still make it look beautiful. Personally, I do not own any exotic pieces. I used to have a Celine case flat bag. It was red, and then on the side of it, it was Python. I've had it for a couple months and I was just like, kind of don't like this bag. I actually don't like Python that much because the scale lifts upwards. So I don't own anything, and I don't foresee myself purchasing anything in the future, especially Python. I actually, if anything, would prefer Lizard, but I am so in love with mock croc and mock lizard that itch has been scrapped. I don't really have any desire to go purchase real lizard or real Python. One, it's expensive. Two, it's hard to maintain, and I just don't want to deal with the hassle of owning exotic pieces. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found this to be informative. Again, I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other. This is a decision you can make for yourself, or maybe you just think this is stupid altogether. I don't know. But which of these 4 options do you prefer? If you enjoy my content, I will leave you another video here. I promise it will be much more positive. Actually, you know what? You never know with me. Whatever the YouTube algorithm thinks you'll like here, life is hard. I want to help you save time and money so that you can somehow adult easier and hopefully less than retail. I'll see you all next time.